In this edition of the Red and Blue Political Roundup, the Deputy Attorney General handed in his resignation Monday. Rod Rosenstein will leave the post on May 11th. His departure was widely expected. However, the timeline was repeatedly pushed back in anticipation of Special Counsel Robert Mueller's report. In his resignation letter, Rosenstein said he was grateful for the opportunity to serve, as well as for the courtesy and humor the president displayed to him. Rosenstein went on to assert the Justice Department's independence, writing, "We keep faith, we follow the rules, and we always put America first." This marks the end of a tumultuous 2 years for Rosenstein. He was the one who appointed Mueller in the first place and faced continuing scrutiny from the president because of it. Niall Stanage joins me now from Washington. He's a White House columnist for The Hill. Niall, thanks so much for being with us. Do we know how the White House feels about Rosenstein's resignation?
Well, Rosenstein's resignation was expected. Obviously, the relationship has indeed been tumultuous, as you described it. The debate around Rod Rosenstein has always been whether he is a protector of justice or a patsy for Trump, and people can marshal evidence on either side of that equation. But once Bill Barr was confirmed as Attorney General, that really paved the way for Rod Rosenstein to go ahead and resign.
Well, the Attorney General, Bill Barr, is scheduled to appear before Congress twice this week. He'll be in front of the Senate Wednesday, followed by the House Thursday. However, we're learning that William Barr might not attend the latter. So what's in dispute here?
Essentially, whether the people on the committee can permit staff members to question Bill Barr. He argues that because this is a congressional hearing, it should be the members of Congress themselves who do the questioning. The committee members say, no, it doesn't necessarily have to be just the committee members. There is precedent for allowing other people, other members of committee staff to question them, particularly if those people have specialist knowledge. Getting out of the weeds of that, this is really a battle in a bigger war, Elaine, between the Trump administration and Democrats in the House as to how these further investigations are going to be painted as a legitimate inquiry into what happened or as a partisan witch hunt, to use the president's common phrase.
Well, can these differences be resolved in time for Barr to testify this week?
Possibly. You could argue that the administration and the Democrats have some kind of mutual interest in allowing these things to go forward, so long as an acceptable formula can be found. There are dangers on both sides. The Democrats don't really want to be seen to be overreaching or pursuing the president in some obviously unfair way. Similarly, the administration doesn't mind defying Democrats to a degree, but it doesn't want to be seen as completely obstructionist. So there is, in that sense, a possibility of some common ground being found.
Well, the president is scheduled to discuss infrastructure with Democratic leadership Tuesday. Oh, to be a fly on the wall for that meeting, because with the mounting pressure between congressional Democrats and the White House, what can we expect now from this meeting?
We might be able to expect fireworks. You mentioned the fly on the wall thing. Of course, it was back in December when President Trump unexpectedly allowed camera crews to be the fly on the wall, to keep filming while things degenerated into a squabble between himself and Speaker Pelosi in particular. Democrats say they want a large amount of funding for infrastructure. They want the bulk of that funding to be from the government rather than primarily private, which had been President Trump's earlier plan. But as we know, whenever President Trump and Speaker Pelosi and Minority Leader Schumer get together, expect the unexpected is probably the best guide.
Meantime, Joe Biden held his first official campaign rally Monday. Let's listen to some of what the former vice president had to say in Pittsburgh.
But folks, everybody knows who Donald Trump is. And I believe and hope they know who we are. We have to let them know who we are. We Democrats and we independents who have the same view have to choose hope over fear, unity over division, and maybe most importantly, truth over lies.
So, of course, a huge caveat. It is still so early to gauge voter opinion, but a new poll out this weekend shows Joe Biden holds a lead in the crowded field. However, it is by no means a runaway. How can we expect Biden to try to widen his advantage here moving forward?
There are a couple of things. Clearly, Joe Biden is trying to portray himself as a potential healer for the nation, and that's what the clip you just played was all about. But it's very interesting in that poll, Elaine, it does show some of Biden's weaknesses, one of which is the large number of people who are undecided, and another one is if you drill down into that poll, Joe Biden does have weaknesses, especially with young voters. He performs really quite badly with young voters and with more liberal voters. So he's going to, I assume, try to extend his appeal from the centre ground or the centre left of the Democratic Party, try to make himself more appealing or at least more acceptable to progressives while not cutting across what he thinks of as his strongest argument, and that's that he is the most capable of taking on President Trump in a general election.
Let me ask you about President Trump's campaign, because his campaign manager says that he's optimistic some blue states will flip red this election. In an interview that aired on Face the Nation with Margaret Brennan Sunday, Brad Parscale outlined places he's targeting. Let's listen to that.
Where are you most focused?
Well, there's some key states. I mean, look, I think the president expanded and changed the map. Obviously, we have to go back and win Michigan again, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin. We plan on also being in Minnesota very soon. I think New Mexico is in play in 2020. I think New Hampshire. I think we continue to grow the map. I think Nevada, even Colorado. And so those are states we did not win in 2016 that I think are open for 2020.
So what is the president's re-election campaign doing already this far out from 2020 to reach these goals?
Well, it's trying to paint Democrats as unacceptable, for a start. One of the main themes of the Trump re-election campaign is clearly going to be to paint Democrats as too far left, as outside the mainstream. And I know from my own reporting that they're going to do that with any candidate, whether that candidate has been previously perceived as on the left of the party or in the centre. Also, I think we'll see a doubling down on the traditional Trumpian themes, immigration, sovereignty in terms of sort of a scepticism of multilateralism and interventionism, things of that nature, trade, jobs. The economy is clearly something that the Trump re-election campaign sees as a strong point. But I expect we'll also see the sounding of chords about the so-called culture wars, because that has been quite a potent appeal by the president, at least to his base in the past.
Well, I know, Niall, you've reported on this. How is President Trump's media dominance being challenged by 2020 Democrats?
One of the difficulties he faces is that there are now a lot of other people coming toward the centre of the stage. Of course, the president still has the spotlight. He's the president, after all. He still has the bully pulpit. But I think we're seeing the media shift to its coverage of the 2020 race. There are clearly compelling characters on the Democratic side. And more broadly, Elaine, I think there is some evidence to suggest that President Trump's shock value is perhaps diminishing over time. There are things he says and tweets now that if he'd said or tweeted them a year ago, I think would have been dominating cable news for 24 hours or really making headlines. Now I think there's more of a, not exactly a shoulder shrug, but certainly an acceptance that President Trump has an unusual way of doing things, and we're getting accustomed to it now, perhaps.
Yes. All right. Niall Stanage in Washington for us. Niall, always great to have you. Thank you.
Thanks.